In this video, we're modeling concrete tunnel portals, painting them and integrating them into the surrounding nature.
Hello and welcome to a video tutorial in which we will model tunnel portals, in concrete, that is. I did a video, I would say 2 years ago, I think, where I modeled the stone portals, and this video became very popular, and I got many requests to do a similar video for concrete portals. Now, to cut portals which duplicates the kind of concrete look is not all that tricky. The tricky part is painting it, weathering it, and also integrating it into the surroundings and making it realistic. So we're gonna cover that. If you haven't seen this video on how to make stone type portals, check it out. I'm putting up a link up there for you, so you can click that and find that video easy. But in this video we're gonna model concrete portals, so let's go.
Let's start by having a look at our prototype. Well, this is a bridge, but it has those typical red, black and brown striped vertical marks. And you see here, mainly the black ones are at the top and then fading the further down you get. Here is a tunnel. This one's from 1903. And you can see here that it has a lot of chalk, white, and also same kind of pattern as we saw on that bridge. If we move in a bit closer, we see the chalk here on the side. So it seems to be erupting from cracks or spots in the concrete and fading downwards. This portal is from 1892. Now the colors may vary a bit from what area you're modeling. In my area it's obviously black, brown, kind of rust brown, reddish, plus white chalk, which are the main colors used here to create the weathering of the portals. Now our model portal can be made either from MDF wood or, like I do it here, in styrofoam. It's just up to what you prefer working with. The advantage with styrofoam is that it's very soft and easy to saw, cut and sand. So now I have saw, and as you saw, it is kind of tricky to saw manually just completely straight, but it's not a problem. It's just to sand that. And next thing, we're gonna add also a layer of plaster on top. The plaster has two purposes. One is to give the portal a more of a concrete surface texture. The plaster or putty I'm using here is from the DIY store, used to you know, when you redecorate at home before you put those new wallpapers up. So I'm smearing that over the entire surface, both on the inside and on the outside of the portal. Do this with a finger here. Look out, so if you're using a putty which is corrosive, you must use gloves. Once we got all of the surfaces covered, we can leave this portal to dry for a few hours before we get started on the sanding. The purpose of sanding this plastered surface is to smoothen it, of course, but also to reduce the surface texture somewhat. For this I'm using a 240 grit sanding paper and a sanding block, so I get the edges sharp and nice, as well as the surface is flat. This is very important for the final appearance of the portal, that it looks geometric and molded in place. The portal will be painted in a kind of natural gray color. I mix this typically from white acrylic paint, brown raw umber, black and olive green. The purpose with the olive green here is to kind of soften or make the green tone a bit more natural. And the reason for creating a gray color with mainly brown and white and just a touch of black is to avoid it getting blue. And then I just thin it with water and alcohol. 9 parts water and 1 part alcohol. Then I just paint the entire portal, both sides in and under, with a flat wide brush, using vertical movements of the paintbrush like this. With all of the surfaces covered, you can leave it to dry for an hour. Then it's time to weather the portal, and as we saw in the prototype photos, the photos from real life, we have black, brown, white and kind of corrosion red or reddish brown. I typically mix in a portion of that red in the brown to get a natural look. Let's get back to the prototype photos just to get remembered, just to freshen up the memory on what it should look like. I'm starting with white. And I dip the paintbrush into the white, wipe most of that paint off on a piece of paper, and then I start to make those streaks, vertical streaks, which erupts from different points in the portal. And I continue adding streaks everywhere, more or less. There's always a possibility to smoothen the pattern a bit if you feel that you got too strong with the paintbrush. You can just wipe it off using a finger like this and then soften the entire contour you just created. Once I feel happy with the white, I move over to that reddish brown. This paint is mainly added along the edges, the outer edges of the portal, and also on the lower part closest to the ground, because that is typically what the portals look like, at least in my area. Depending on what you're modeling, you might need to check your prototype what colors to use. Lastly, I add the black streaks, which typically starts at the portal edge on top there and then fades downwards in vertical streaks as well. Alright, I think we're reaching the point where the basic weathering is good enough so we can apply the portal into the landscape. Now, normally when you're building a model railroad, the tunnel portals are assembled early in the process, even before building the mountain. So this is preferably how to do it. Assemble the tunnel portal and then the inner tunnel. Then when that is ready, you can build or apply the landscape folder, whatever you're using. If you're interested in making these inner tunnels, I have a video tutorial on how to do this. They're cut in low-cost styrofoam. Now, if you don't have a styrofoam cutter, you can make these inner tunnels from paper and glue, like toilet paper or newspaper. Well, as said, with these parts in place, you can now start to fix the landscape foil and create the mountain. Well, in my case, I'm replacing an ugly plastic portal I've had here since day one, and now I will have this concrete portal instead. When applying a portal like this, I start by putting some putty in place, and then I push the portal into the putty. Then I plaster, either with a steel plaster or like this. This is a very hard to reach area, so I have a kind of a wooden stick to plaster around the portal. This is a kind of plaster that does not shrink or crack, but it takes about 40 minutes for it to dry. After those 40 minutes, we can finally paint. And I'm using the same gray paint here as I used painting the portal. So I kept some of that paint in a container, and then I can apply it here around the portal to make it blend in nicely. Once that paint has dried, I used the same weathering process for this putty or plaster which surrounds and fixes the portal in place. Starting with white, then adding brown, and lastly the black streaks. I do one more thing which I didn't do with the portal. I apply a black wash. This black wash contains from 1 part black acrylic paint, 1 part raw umber, and 9 parts water. So I apply kind of richly with this black wash, but with a paper towel I'm wiping it off from the portal because it doesn't look all that good. But once wiped off, it looks natural. I get a natural black fading between the areas. Then we can add some PVA glue or Elmer construction, and then I sprinkle in burnt grass. That's a fine turf from Woodland Scenic into the wet glue. I add additional spots of PVA glue, and into that I push some bushes, and this is what the final result look like. A well integrated portal which has been standing there for hundreds of years. Here are some other examples. This is a dual track portal which I did some time ago, and how the integration of that looks. I've basically used the same methods I've used to create the portal I did in this video. This portal is standing in the middle of a kind of sharp curve, so none of the commercially available portals did fit the bill there. They were all too narrow. Here's a kind of city portal where I also added elements of wood. The plate, for instance, here is a 0.4mm thick plywood, which was added before plastering. The next portal is also built using the same method as presented in this video, but here I've added the elements of balsa and plywood to duplicate a portal which is located about 20 kilometers south from Stockholm. And look how nicely it looks when filming trains passing through. And this is what the real life portal looks like. Here is a view from south, this is from the side, and this is the top, so very overgrown.
Alright, so that's a bit of inspiration as well, how you can vary your portals, and of course best is if you go out there and check what the portals looks in the area you're modeling. So, you know, that's most often the biggest source of inspiration you can get. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions about materials, methods used, please post them in the comment field below this video, and I'll try to respond to that as soon as possible. Did you know that this channel is totally dependent on its supporter, its patrons, and people donating via PayPal to the channel? So if you want to be one of the good guys, you feel that you have use for the content or feel inspiration by looking at the channel, please support the channel. Get over to Patreon, set up a support account there from, you know, like $1-2 per month, or make a one-off donation using the PayPal dialog found in the video description below. And if you haven't yet subscribe to the channel, enable that little bell, and you will get notification once the next video gets published. Until that happens, see ya!